Okay, everybody. So these are the rules for fourth species counterpoint. So fourth species counterpoint is the one where everything is suspended, right? So it's all offset by a half note. So it's basically like first species counterpoint, except somebody took the counterpoint line and pushed it over 2 beats. And there are some very specific rules that allow for this to happen and work. So the first one is that in this case, dissonance is encouraged. Oh, you can't quite see there. Fourth species counterpoint rules. All right, so dissonance is encouraged on the first beat of each measure. This is the only one where this is the case because the idea is to basically write suspensions, all right? So dissonance encouraged on the first beat of each measure. So you're going to begin each measure, the first measure of each counterpoint session with a half note rest and then a half note tied to the next beat, all right? And you're going to start it always on P5, P8, or perfect unison, all right? Just like the others. The counterpoint must, in the last measure, all right, of the piece, must arrive on the leading tone and then resolve to the perfect octave, all right? So the first beat is going to end up on a leading tone and then the perfect octave. So we can even, in here, you'll see the last 2 measures of this Schenker piece that we've been working on. Here's the last 2 measures. Well, we don't know what's going to go here, but we already know that we need the leading tone here. So it's a 6 tied over to the dissonant 7, all right, which is the leading tone to the perfect octave. So that's what it's going to look like, all right? All right, so moving on. The second half note in each measure must be a consonant, all right? So in this case, you'll see the second half note in each measure. We've got a 6. And then the first half note may be consonant or dissonant. However, dissonance is the goal for the first beat of the measure, but the only way to achieve this dissonance is by following the rule of suspensions, all right? So remember, suspensions have certain rules. They have to resolve down a step or up a step. And yeah, I mean, you'll see. If you look at 8.46, it'll give you the possible suspensions, all right? So let's see. If you cannot arrange for a suspension, then it must be so having a consonant and then a dissonant. That's really the key of the suspension, is that one note is consonant, one note is dissonant. So you've got like the second half of the beat is going to be like a 5, and then, and then the first half of the beat is a 4. Or it's the second half of the beat is a 6, and the first half of the beat is a 7, the next beat, right? So it's going to go like 6 to 7, or 5 to 4, or 2 to 1, whatever it is. It goes consonant, dissonant. That is what a suspension is in this case. Now, if you can't arrange for a suspension, then when the tie has to be 2 consonants. So it has to be like 5 to 6, or it's actually one of the only, or you know, you mostly get this when the cantus firmus stops moving in stepwise motion and jumps like down or up by a third or something like that. Then you may have to tie 2 consonants together. So you'll have like a third and a sixth. So if neither of these is possible at all, if there's no way to get around this, it's possible to break the tie and write 2 half notes. And the rule of dissonance applies. They both have to be consonant notes, all right? Because you're not allowed to have dissonance unless it's in a suspension, all right? So they've got to be those 2 half notes. If you end up breaking it, they've got to be consonant half notes. And then the last rule is that successive perfect fifths or parallel fifths. So it would end up being like a 5 and then a 6, and then it's possible to have another 5 and 6. This is okay as long as there are no leaps in either part. So it's all going to be stepwise motion. That's okay, all right? So it's the only time that parallel fifths are not considered parallel fifths, and it's acceptable. So let's go write out this bad boy and see if we can do one, huh? So this is assignment 8.6. I'm going to do number 1 again. So we're sticking with our same cantus firmus that we've had for the last few. And let's see. All right, so the first rule is, everybody remembers, dissonance is encouraged on the first beat. And to begin the first measure, we need to have a half note rest followed by a half note on one of the perfect consonances. So we start with a half note rest. All right. And then let's start perfect 8, okay? So we're going to start on our C. And then this C is going to tie over to the next note, all right? And it's going to shrink, right? Because this note moves. So in this case, this is nothing. Here we've got an 8. And now, because this note down here moves up and this note stays the same, this is a 7. So this is an acceptable suspension. We have a consonant to a dissonant, and the dissonant is on the first beat. All right? And then we've got to figure out our next move. So then maybe we step down 1, say. So we'll go down, let's see. Generally, you want to move in stepwise motion. But we need it to be a consonant. So we can step down to a B, and this will be a 6th. And then our B carries over to the next measure. And this will be a 5th. So these are actually 2 consonants, and this is an example where we could end up, if the line is also moving down, we could end up with 6, 5, 6, 5, 6, 5, and it would be okay. But since our line is kind of moving opposite, we're going to just keep going with it. So here's our E. Now if we move down to A, we're going to end up with a 4th, which is verboten because that's considered a dissonance. So let's move back up to, if we move back up to C, we get another 6. And C and F, that's a 5th, right? So here is an acceptable set of parallel fifths right here. That's an acceptable use. They're both they're acting as suspensions rather than parallel fifths. So let's change it up a little. We keep moving up. So we could move back up to, we could go up to D and do the same thing. That's okay. Let's do that. That's nice and easy. So we've still got another 6-5. This pattern is absolutely okay. It's actually kind of the goal. And now we have, let's see. Now let's do something interesting. Here, this is a problem. So this is a problem area. Generally, this is where things get messed up. So now the cantus firmus is jumping around a little bit. It's not moving stepwise. So we've got to make sure that when we do this consonant-dissonant thing that it's not going to end on a suspension because it's not going to move stepwise, right? Because we're jumping down a fourth. So no matter what we do, it's got to be a consonant to consonant. All right? So we've got G. So our options are B, C. That's the third. Oh wait, no, not C. We could do D. That's a fifth, although that would be a parallel fifth. That's not okay. So D is out. We could do E. That's a third, but that would be a second. Let's see. So this may be a situation where we have to break it up. Because those are really our only options. Let's see. We could do G, but that would be a fourth, so that we can't do. Let's see. We could do B, we could do E. We could go up to F. No, we can't. That's E. Okay. We can do D, but we already got a fifth, so that's a no. Unless we change this around. Let's not, though. So, what we're going to do is break it up, right? This is a good chance to do this. So let's say we just need to have any consonant here between these options. So let's go maybe up to E. All right, so between G and E, we have a sixth, totally consonant, totally acceptable. And then let's drop back down to D. And that's an 8. So we've got 2 consonants in a row. They're going to be different notes, so we break up our suspension, which is, you know, we want to avoid it, but if we can't, you got to do what you got to do. Now, here we have an option. So we've got a perfect octave here, and then we want to go consonant to consonant here, probably because we have another leap of a third, but here we can probably get away with having a suspension that works for both. So let's see. So our consonant options are F. We could have an A. We could have a B, it's a 6th. Or we could have a 10th, which goes up to, oh, we can have an octave, sorry, we can have E.